Joining me now is Congressman Jim Himes, Democrat from Connecticut and ranking member on the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman Himes, thank you for being here on this extraordinary day. First, let me just get your reaction to Trump's territorial lust over Canada, Greenland, and the Panama Canal.
Alex, you know, as the election results became clear, I swore to myself that I would not chase every single shiny object, every mad raving of our next president. But I will, for you, I will do this. I will jump into the romper room of things that are never going to happen. However, before I do that, Alex, I want us to realize why this is all happening. We are not going to take Greenland by force. We are not going to get Canada as the 51st state. We are not going to rename the Gulf of Mexico. So why is the president talking about that? The answer to that question, of course, is as I sit here in Washington, D.C., in Ways and Means conference rooms, Republicans are putting together tax cut bills that will deliver hundreds of billions of dollars of tax cuts to corporations and to the very wealthiest Americans. Now, this is a little bit at odds with the campaign that the president-elect ran. As we sit here right now, there are rooms full of people thinking about how to cut regulations that keep our water clean and our air clean. So what we're talking about here are things that are never going to happen. They're shiny things. They're little bits of tin foil and fireworks designed to distract us from the fact that the president-elect is going to completely fail to deliver on the economic promises that he offered people with a lot of economic anxiety. Okay, having said that, if you want, I'm prepared to engage on the question of Greenland and the Panama Canal.
And I'm the first one to point out that a lot of this seems totally unhinged, which is what I said earlier. But I do think there's something significant about territorial expansion at all costs, and the comparison to Russia and China was not made in jest. And I think also we're talking about Denmark, which is a NATO ally, Greenland, which has military bases, the Panama Canal, through which we ship a lot of goods, and Canada, which is a huge trading partner and ally of the United States. And even if it amounts to a hill of beans, the rhetoric is pitched and kind of insane. The idea that the U.S., the incoming president of the United States, is talking about military action to take Canada. Yes, it's a romper room of sorts, but I do think there's probably some repercussions to angering allies like those with rhetoric like this.
Yeah. I mean, okay, let's do it. It ain't going to happen, right? Denmark is a critical NATO ally of ours. No Panamanian government would survive discussions to return the canal to the United States. By the way, if we're going to return the Panama Canal to the United States, why don't we return the Suez Canal to the British and the French? Why don't we let the British reclaim the railways that they built in India, right? By the way, you did a good job of covering the history of the Panama Canal. You didn't mention the fact that 110 years ago, Teddy Roosevelt and his guys basically created the nation of Panama in order, stole it from Panama, essentially, from Colombia, in order to create the Panama Canal. Long imperial history here that is actually, and again, let's do it. Is actually very, very painful for Latin Americans. When the Gulf of Mexico, does Mexico matter to us? Yes, it does. If Mexico is pissed off at us, they're not going to do all that they need to do to help us with the southern border, to help with the migrant problem, to help us with the fentanyl that's coming across the border. So yes, this stuff does have consequences. Now, here's my guess. My guess is that the government of Denmark, the government of Canada, and the government of Mexico, and the government of Panama know what we all know, which is that 80% of what Donald Trump says and does is noise. It's the 20% that is not noise that you need to worry about. And I promise you that not the Gulf of Mexico, not Canada, and not Greenland are in that 20% of real things that Donald Trump is going to do.
Yeah, despite the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene actually introduced a bill on the House floor today to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. I do think, as Trump talks about expanding America's power, he's doing something very concerted at the same time. He began this press conference talking about a multi-billion, $20 billion foreign investment to build American data centers from an Emirati, courtesy of an Emirati billionaire and a Trump ally named Hussein Sajwani. Donald Trump has put a for sale sign on this country, ironically, as he talks about buying other ones. And I wonder how concerned you are about his championing of foreign investment here with no strings attached and unwinding any sort of pesky regulations that may get in the way of foreign investment here in the U.S.
Yeah, well, we have pretty well-established mechanisms to make sure that the foreign investment here in the United States is not a national security threat. There's a little esoteric organization called the Committee for Foreign Investment in the United States, lovingly nicknamed CFIUS, and their job is to make sure that this sort of investment doesn't put at risk our national security. Now, by the way, we're having, a pretty ugly conversation about national security when the current president refuses to allow Nippon Steel to buy U.S. Steel, even though that would probably be good for U.S. Steel, and does it on national security reasons, even though Japan is probably our most important ally in Asia. So, again, it's a little bit of a romper room here in Washington, and I hope that at some point, and look, I get that our politics have become entertainment, but I hope that at some point we recognize that as the single most powerful country on the planet, we really do, as much fun as it's going to be to overturn a whole bunch of apple carts, we really do at some point need to be a responsible actor on the global stage and start, acting that way, and hopefully the president communicating that that's who we are.
Congressman Jim Himes, thank you for joining me tonight. I appreciate your time, sir.